retired tanker yanker. Welcome to Transitions, my YouTube channel. This is episode 3 of my series, So You Want to Be a Truck Driver. Today, I'll be talking about your first job in the trucking industry. But first, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome any and all new subscribers. And hey, if you're not a subscriber, why not? It's easy. Just got to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll get to see all the new content that I'll be posting, including further installments in this series. And it looks like I might be making Throwback Thursday a regular too, which is where you're going to see my music videos. And be sure to share this video, because while you may not necessarily be looking for a job in the trucking industry, somebody in your friends community, in your social media community, might be looking for such a job. And this could be a help to them. And before I start, I want to touch on that very subject. Yesterday I met a fella who is in driving school. And I've known this fella casually for some time. And when he told me what school he was in, I was appalled, because he's going to one of those 3-week schools that I talked about in the previous video. Now, I didn't want to say anything that might discourage him. And the fact of the matter is, just because you chose a 3-week school might not necessarily mean that you're going to get a bad training experience, a bad educational experience. Who knows? Those schools do graduate guys who go on and get jobs and even make it a career. So I'm not going to mention any particular school by name, but I'm just going to reiterate here that if you haven't chosen a school, do your homework, and like I said, try to at least get some information. Make an informed decision as to where you go to school. And the thing is, these fly-by-night schools, they promise you the world, but they may not necessarily give you the best training. So I'm just going to tell you again, any promises that they make, get it in writing. And when they start talking about the driver shortage, take it with a grain of salt. So, congratulations, you've completed truck driving school. Now, it's time to get a job, you bum. Now, chances are you've applied to several carriers during your school, and you've been interviewed either by the recruiter who came to your school or over the telephone. Companies do have hiring standards, which vary. First of all, if you've ever been convicted of a felony, your chances of getting a job in this industry are slim. That's because just about all companies require their carriers to be bonded. Now, there are companies that will hire an offender if you've gone through a rehabilitation program, but also remember that your previous employment record is open to scrutiny. If you go on a job, you're going to have to provide 10 years of employment history. That's the law. And if you've had a hard time holding on to a job in those 10 years, that's going to come out of that. Like I said, 10 years employment history is mandatory. And you have to give names, addresses, telephone numbers, dates, and you have to account for any period of unemployment. Your ability to hold a job is taken into consideration. Now, it should go without saying that your driving record is going to be in play too. If you have, say, 2 or more DUIs in the previous year, or a DUI in the previous 2 years, or whatever, don't count on getting a job in this industry. DUIs mean a lot. It just shows that if you cannot take a drink and avoid getting behind the wheel of a vehicle, well, you're not going to get a job. So, consider that if you have DUIs on your record, even consider that before you even take into consideration a career in the driving industry. Now, they're also going to make sure that your health is okay, and that includes mental health. Now, health issues don't necessarily disqualify you, but you have to account for them, and you have to show that at least it's being addressed, it's being treated. Now, companies are looking to hire. I don't want to go into the driver shortage because it's a myth. I've spoken about this, and the reason companies are hiring is because of the abysmal turnover rate in this industry. Companies with turnover rates of as much as 100%. They're hiring people, they're promising them the moon, people have high expectations, they don't get what they expected, they move on. That's what the companies are looking to replace, that type of person. And that's why they are hiring students. They do get a government tax credit for training unemployed drivers or people who are looking to move into the industry. There is a tax credit for the training, so it's not like they're writing a check for the entire cost of your training. But they are making a significant investment both in time and money, and they're taking a chance that they're going to put a student behind the wheel with a trainer. That student has to avoid screwing up. I mean, just a simple mistake could cause a delay in delivery, and that's what we call in this industry a service failure. Some companies, and in fact most companies, offer sign-on bonuses. They'll throw a dollar amount at you. Be sure to read the fine print when it comes to sign-on bonuses, because you're not going to get it all up front. They say, oh, we offer you a $1,000 sign-on bonus. When you're assigned a truck, when your training is over, you might see half of that and see the other half in 90 days. Some of it will be contingent on you putting in as much as a year. So if they say, well, we're going to give you a big sign-on bonus, well, the sign-on bonus might be equivalent to what you make in a week. And they'll call that, well, that's your bonus because you didn't get vacation pay for this first year. So just any promises that the companies make, be sure to get them in writing. And be sure you get the name of the person who made that promise too. There's lots of companies out there that want to say, oh, we're a family. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Just remember, Ferengi rule of acquisition number 6. Never let family stand in the way of profit. In other words, yes, you're joining a family, but our family has rules. And rule number 1 is we're in business, and we're in business to make money. If we make money, you make money. It's just the way it is, people. Weigh your choices. You will likely have many choices. You'll probably get several offers of employment. Don't just take the first one that they throw at you and say, well, I was hoping to get hired by XYZ Trucking. And I put in with ABC Trucking and PDQ Trucking. But XYZ gave me the first offer. They're the one I wanted to go with anyway. Well, if that's what you wanted to do and you've looked at these other companies, do it. But at least for your own benefit, weigh the offers that every company gives you and don't just jump at the first choice. Pick your best choice and then accept the offer and you're off. You'll have to go to your assigned terminal. So you've probably just completed a pretty long journey, and just about every company that wants you to come to their terminal, they're going to put you on the Greyhound. Refer to the previous video about transportation costs. You'll be tired from that journey, and you're going to have to go through an orientation procedure. It could be a couple days, it could be as much as a week, where they're going to go over the company policies. You're going to have to sign all the necessary tax documents, insurance documents. You'll be spending half the morning just signing documents. Okay, you might even be required to refill out your employment application, so be ready with your 10 years work history. It's a good idea to take that type of information with you. Make sure you have your Social Security card. Of course, make sure you have your driver's license. And it's a good idea to take some other form of identification, such as a passport. Now, I realize not everybody has a passport. Not every company requires a passport. But there are some companies that will say, well, you'll get better runs with us if you have a passport because we take runs into Canada. And they pay higher. And they do. I mean, when I was at Highway Transport, I used to stand in line to take the Canada runs because that was the easiest way for me to make at least $700 for 2 days' work. But you're also going to be required to take a pre-employment drug screen. So, if you're a drug user, this is where you're going to get caught. And most people think, oh, well, I smoked a joint with my friends at the party we had before I came out here. It's not going to show up on your drug screen. Well, it is. So, don't take chances. When you start in the truck driving school, they're not going to require you to do a drug screen. But if you do like to use recreational drugs, stop it at that point. Get the stuff out of your system, because it is a federal law that not only will you be required to take a pre-employment drug screen, there's also something called random drug screens, where you don't get told until it's time to say, come here. They hand you the cup and say, fill it up. And there's also something called post-accident drug screening, where if you're involved in anything that is an accident or an incident, companies have different definitions of what they consider an incident that requires a post-accident drug screen, but just be ready at any time to take a random drug screen. And if you have health issues like diabetes or high blood pressure, make sure you're taking your medication for it and that it's under control. Chances are that if you fail to meet the guidelines, they might give you a do-over, but you're only going to get a medical card that's good for 3 months, and then you're going to have to go through the physical again. Normally, a medical card is good for 2 years, so unless you have a condition like diabetes or high blood pressure. As long as it's under control and as long as it meets the federal standards, and they are high, you will get a card for 1 year, and you'll have to take your physical every year. That's just the way it is. And like I said, the pre-employment drug screen, even if you come from a place where recreational marijuana is legal, it's still a Schedule I narcotic under federal law, and that's what the trucking industry goes by, federal law. So if you test positive for marijuana, even if you're working in a state where recreational is legal, or if you use it for medical, part of the reason that I don't drive anymore is because I am a medical marijuana patient, and I don't use it except in rare extreme cases when either I can't take the pain or I can't sleep. And while it is helpful to me, it disqualifies me. And if you're an opiate user, either legally or illegally, you will not be allowed to drive a truck, period. If you're taking prescription opioids, make sure you have a note from your doctor saying that that therapy is over and done with. You're going to require a doctor's note to be able to get on the truck. And if you are just a narcotics abuser, how you got this far, I don't know. But you are going to have to start your student training after orientation is over. And depending on the company policies, this could be as long as 3 months. The time you're going to have to spend on truck with a trainer, or in some cases 2 or even 3 trainers. Now this is where you start making money. But training pay it varies from company to company, and it is abysmal. You're not even being paid sustenance wages, it seems. But your trainer is not only getting paid for his miles or her miles, getting paid for your miles. And you might be making, say, $300, $400 a week. Well, if you're on a minimum wage job, that's a step up, but trust me, in this day and age, that's not money. Now, you're going to be in the truck with a driver trainer. Remember that some of them are just doing it for the money. You're just extra miles to them that they're getting paid for. Now, I was a driver trainer when I was with Highway Transport Chemical. I trained the new drivers as they would come in. These were experienced drivers. They already knew how to drive, except we did have a pilot program where we were hiring students, and I had to work with them with their driving as well as how to load, unload, the policies, whatever. Also, I was training people who had no experience in the tanker business, so I had to teach them all about things like centrifugal force, centripetal force, gravity, inertia, conservation of momentum, you know, all that fancy sounding stuff, which might sound highfalutin to some dumb truck driver, but trust me, you have to know it. So my idea was just to make sure that these trainees are able to do the job. And I used to tell every trainee, I am here not to set you up for failure, but to set you up for success. Because if you succeed, I look better. The company I worked for realized that not everybody who starts lasts for long enough time to be called a success. And just some people decide after a while it's not for them. So I didn't want that to happen. And if you're a good driver trainer, you will not only recognize the mistakes that your trainee is making, you will recognize the mistakes that you are making. So if you think your trainer is making a mistake, don't be afraid to point it out. But be constructive, be positive. Say, hey, when you did this, I was under the impression we were supposed to do it this way. Okay? If that trainer is truly a professional trainer, he or she will engage you constructively and say, well, yeah, I know they say do it like this, but the reason I do it this way is this. Or maybe you're right, maybe I should do it that way. You know, if the person just gets angry and says, don't you tell me, I'm supposed to be the one telling you, remember that the teacher can be the student too. So the only way you're going to learn is from people who are different from you. But your trainer is also going to try to show you the shortcuts, the positive shortcuts, the ones that make your job easier without compromising safety, without compromising performance. Okay, recognize which of these shortcuts will be helpful and which will be harmful. Now, when you get done your student training, the company's training administrator and the trainer's driver manager are going to ask you for feedback. Please be honest. You will have the opportunity to give a report on your trainer, usually in the form of a questionnaire. Sometimes they're going to ask you to write a paragraph or two. Don't be afraid. Remember, if that trainer is doing an inadequate job, they want to know about it, because that's like a cancer. And if it spreads, it can be a disaster. Use this opportunity also to learn the road. You're going to have to learn how to get along with strangers. You're going to be dealing with people who are vastly different from you. You're going to be going to parts of the country where you've never been before, and you're going to find out that people there are different. Okay, I'm going to say this again. Driving a truck is as much a lifestyle as it is a livelihood. So just be sure to check your ego when you climb into the cab. Now, another thing, I'm going to get back to your driver trainer right now. That trainer is going to have to spend some time in direct observation. But he or she is also going to use that opportunity while you're driving to catch some sleep. The idea is to keep the wheels rolling. Yes, if that trainer is committed to safety and training you properly, that's one thing. And they are getting a bonus for training you. So the truck isn't making money if the wheels aren't turning. So maybe that particular driver is going to get longer runs because, oh, I have a trainee with me. The trainee can drive while I catch some Z's. Okay. Just remember that if your driver trainer is comfortable sleeping while you're driving, take pride in that. That means that they trust you. And they're not going to do that the first day you drive. If they do that the first day you drive in the truck, they're a fool. But if your driver trainer observes you, sees that you can be trusted, lets you drive while they're in the bunk, that means that they trust you. That means you're doing a pretty darn good job. Now, at the end of your driver training period, you're probably going to have to go through a second orientation. You will have to demonstrate your skills too. That means your road test, that means your backing test, that means your pre-trip test. Your trainer has already signed off on you at this point. The trainer says, yes, I think that this individual can do this, can do the job. Now, if that's the case, you shouldn't have any problem with that. They're going to take you out for a road test. They're going to ask you to do a skills test. But the first thing they're going to ask you is that pre-trip. So be sure you do the pre-trip right. So you put all this rigmarole behind you, and you're assigned to a dispatcher, you're assigned to a tractor. Congratulations, you're now a first-seat driver. Meet with your driver manager, your dispatcher, and keep it in mind that this person gets a bonus based on your performance, and that he or she will not be treating you any differently than any other driver on the board. To him or her, you're another driver on their board. But they have to learn you as much as you need to learn them. And you're going to get your load assignments based on the assessment of that driver manager. The driver manager's job is to match loads with drivers. Okay, I have this driver here, there's a load over here, I want that load for this driver. They're going to make sure that you can do it too. Now, a lot of companies use what's called force dispatch and say, okay, here's the first driver available, here's the next load, bingo! If you don't have the hours of service available to do the run, the dispatcher can't put you on the run. But that's usually idiot-proof these days with electronic logging. And when they input the load, they're going to say this driver cannot complete this run legally. So back in the day, the dispatcher had to make that call. But also remember that the more your dispatcher can depend on you, the better your chances of getting the choice runs. But you have to keep in mind that for at least the first 3 months of your employment, you're on probation. The company is really trying to find out if their investment in you is worth it. So you'll be getting crappy runs, you'll never be home, and you're certainly not getting rich. This is the reality. But the company wants you to succeed. And they'll give you whatever support you need. But it's a symbiotic relationship. They'll give you support, and in turn, you got to perform. They are a business after all. And if they're not making a profit, they're not going to be in business. So they're not going to carry you if they think you're dead weight. So don't be dead weight. And don't be a job hopper either. That's the guy that takes a job, works there a couple months, maybe just long enough to qualify for a sign-on bonus and says, oh, I don't like it here. And you're going to go on. If you're fresh out of school and you become a job hopper, your opportunities are going to be limited because after your initial period with the company you start with, your choices go up because you now have experience. But remember that there's a lot of companies out there that only hire experienced drivers, and it has to be at least 18 months, some as many as 2 years. Okay, if you get the reputation as a job hopper, you're never going to get a job with a carrier like that. And also, if you just start on, you sign on with a carrier and decide you don't like it, you go somewhere else, you're back at square one. You're back at your first day on the job. It's as if you just walked out of school. And if you do that 3 or 4 times, and you're just going to be disappointed. Remember to keep your expectations low and your ego in neutral. Now, another thing you have to remember is if you've been working a job outside the industry, there's with things like overtime, minimum wage, when you get your breaks, how many breaks you get, how long they are. The trucking industry is exempt from most fair labor laws. They still have to have unemployment insurance, and they still have to have workers' comp, and they still have to comply with OSHA. But as long as you are under the governance of the Secretary of Transportation, subject to the hours of service regulations, there's no such thing as minimum wage. Get used to it. Like I said, this is a lifestyle as much as it is a livelihood. All I can say is, and the best advice I can give you is lower your expectations, put your ego in neutral, put your shoulder to the wheel, your nose to the grindstone, and make the best impression you can. In fact, the impression you make even in the first 2 weeks of driving will dictate how your company treats you and how opportunities will come to you. So I'm going to bring this video to an end now. Good luck in your job, and remember that much is expected of you. Give more than is expected of you, because from whom much is expected, much is given. Stick it out too. That's going to mean a lot not only to your employer, but to any potential future employers you might have. Just be safe, follow the policies, follow all the civil laws, drive defensively, wear your seatbelt, and don't let those four-wheelers get you down. Don't forget to like and share this video, and be sure, if you're not a subscriber, to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. You won't only be helping me, you might be helping somebody in your community who might be interested in this type of work, or know somebody that might be interested in this type of work, and they're going to say, hey, take a look at Sully's channel. I'm trying to be objective here, people, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from taking a job in the trucking industry. I'm just hoping that if you go in, forewarned is forearmed. So go in forewarned and go in forearmed. For Transitions, this has been Sully, the retired tanker yanker, for My Life After Trucking. Safe and happy travels.